The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the participants and do not reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
BronxNet. Your voice, your views, your vision.
Good evening and welcome to BronxTalk. In commemoration of Memorial Day, we thought we would pay our own respects to those who serve and have served our country. While we all appreciate and admire those who serve, often underappreciated are the women who serve our country. And unfortunately, the numbers of homeless women veterans are disturbing. Allegations of various kinds of mistreatment in the military are disturbing. And is there enough resource to properly support the various needs that women have when they're discharged? Both of tonight's guests are women veterans, and we thank them for their service, and they have distinct first-hand stories to tell of life as women in the military and as women veterans. There won't be phone calls tonight because of the Memorial Day holiday. We're pre-recorded, but you can email questions or comments to us at BronxTalk@bronxnet.org. or post them on our Facebook page, and we'll read those on the air during a future edition of our program. But for the here and now, a retired Army Sergeant and the Bronx advocate for military women in power, it is Sergeant Sandra Walland. Good evening, Sergeant. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And also a Marine veteran, Lance Corporal Carrie Taft. Good evening, Lance Corporal. Thank you for joining us. Sergeant, let's start with you. Let's just kind of set the table a little bit for people who maybe aren't familiar. They say, well, wait a minute, why do women serve in the military? Is it the same reason that men serve and just say, well, I have a need to serve? Is there something more, something less? Just characterize, the service of women. Why did you serve?
In my scenario, yes, I was very tomboyish when I was young. I grew up with like maybe 10 cousins and one small brother, but more cousins than anyone else. And my father served in the military, was Army. My uncle, his brother, was a Marine. On my mother's side, her eldest brother was Army. My uncle, her youngest brother, was Army. And I decided to go Army too.
Did it occur to you, because the people you just mentioned were all male,
right.
Did it occur to you to say, well, wait a minute, I guess that is part of my legacy, but, after all, I am female, maybe this is not for me?
Yeah, as the female in the family, I was more boyish than the boys in the family. Football player, basketball, stickball, the whole 9 yards. So
it felt comfortable.
Yeah.
There was a statistic in some of the materials I researched that said 50% of the women, and maybe it's true for some men too, suffered some interpersonal violence before they serve, and it's almost either a way of compensating or deal with that. You don't have a sense of anything like, certainly in your case, it didn't happen.
No.
And you served 31 years.
31 years, yes.
On behalf of all the people of Bronx, thank you for your service.
God bless.
Lance Corporal Taft, what about you? Why did you enlist?
I was a tomboy as well.
There you go.
Yes, and I wanted to travel. Number one, definitely wanted to travel. I wanted to go away as far as I could, as many places I could get to. And
so it was a way of seeing the world.
Yes, and I wanted to go for defense, to defend myself and defend my country. I would definitely have that fighting spirit. I had been hurt, and I wanted to prevent myself from being hurt again, and I wanted to protect others.
Oh, so that statistic that I quoted may apply to you. Do you care to mention about what sort of hurt, or is that an area we don't want to go?
That's a separate area, yeah.
All right, we're not going there. And so you served 4 years, you had said?
I did,
And,
yes.
and just tell us, characterize the service a little bit for us.
My field was armorer. I was weapons specialist, and I was stationed too close to home. I wanted to get far away, so like the further I wanted to go,
Didn't quite work
the
out.
closer I was staying to home. Yes.
I don't want to overdo it, but it is no doubt it's an issue. And certainly it's been well documented. Maybe way back when you had served in the late 70s and early 80s. Were you aware of dangers to say, well, maybe things aren't so great for women in the military, it may be more difficult than for guys, or were you not aware when you?
I was not aware.
You were not aware. So you just said, well, I'm going to go. I'll be part of it. What about for you? Did you have any concerns about a different treatment before you went in?
Oh yeah, my father schooled me. My uncle schooled
Oh, so
me.
you came from a military family. You did not come from a military.
I have several who did serve in the Army, but I did not communicate
certainly
that
not
way,
like
yes.
our family. So go ahead. Finish
Yeah,
that.
my father was one that told me what the boys do, and how some of the girls are treated, and that he too was part of that nonsense, that stuff that they did. So
Well, that's an interesting admission on his part.
yeah, and he cried and he said he wished, you know what I'm saying, because he was already elderly, like out of the service for a couple
Right.
of years, and he told me everything that happens, and to
Did
watch
you-
out and to be
Did
careful.
you witness it either firsthand, either for yourself or
No, not myself, because my father made sure that I
you-
took
you
self-defense
understood.
courses
Oh,
before
very
I
good.
left.
Very, very good.
And for the girls that would confess, that would come to me for assistance, because I've been I think I've been an advocate ever since I got into the military, because I was the go-to person. So I would hear of stuff, but never really experienced it for myself, or never got to see an actual act. But the after
What
act,
kinds
yeah.
of things did women or do women talk about in your experience, and why you founded the organization, or at least became a Bronx advocate for military women in power?
Anything and everything. Right now, like you said, women are the stepchildren of every military force. We are the not seen or not want to be heard as well too, where they don't really care too much about what services. Let's say, mostly all the services are all man-made. Is what I call them.
Are the jobs that you're given different from what the guys are given, or is there a certain sense of equality? Well, you're
No, the
a service
jobs-
member, you do whatever
You
they
get trained up the same way, but then when push comes to shove to physically perform the task, it's different. Women get pushed more towards the admin and the administrative portion of whatever it is, and the males are the ones that do the physical.
Did you
Oh,
like
back
that?
then,
Do
not
you-
now.
Not now.
No.
That's interesting. Did you like that? Do you like that? Did you understand
No.
it? You wanted the full Monty there.
Check.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. Because
Go ahead. You finish.
I've done, you know what I'm saying? I grew up that way, where because I grew up with boys, I was able to do a lot of physical stuff.
Lance Corporal, characterize your experience in the military. Did you feel prejudice? Was there a sense of, well, we treat her differently? Was there some sort of abuse or difficulties?
There's prejudice in the military. There are some who came directly spoke and said they did not respect having women in the military. Some would tell you to the face. They didn't keep it a secret. There's some would say they did not believe in the women being in the military. And then there were some who accepted it, and I was able
somebody
to...
would say to you, you know what, you're here, but I don't like you, or I don't think you should be here. How do you react? Do you just turn away, or do you say, look, I'm going to prove myself? How do you react to that?
Right, I didn't try to prove myself to them. I just did what I was trained to do. It's like I said, it's a personal feeling. Get over it. But I didn't even have to say that to them. They was expressing, in my opinion, it was expressing their thoughts and their feelings, and we're like, okay, and I'll continue on. And
Did you have difficulties in the military?
I kept running into some persons, I guess maybe because their own challenges, that they made sure, although I was female, they was making sure that I did not experience the things that Sandy was just talking about. So they made sure that, like when it came to the weapons, they made sure that I did not get limited in having access to full disassembly of the weapons. That's what we did, So there was persons who was constantly saying, come over here, let me show you something. So I got that experience.
So
maybe
you
it
actually
was-
got helped a little bit.
Exactly,
more.
and
Well, that's
maybe,
nice,
yes,
and
so
and,
I
and I
appreciate
would
that.
think that young men would appreciate a similar treatment if they're young and innocent and want to learn. So in that way, it could have been an advantage.
Yes.
We the three of us met at the Bronx Veterans Breakfast just a week ago, and you told an interesting story about after the military, and you do the minimum research, and homelessness among women who have served comes flying out of all the pages and off the computer right at you. So tell me a little bit about what your life was like after the military and what the military meant for you after you finished your service.
After I finished my service, I did not connect with the veterans services at all because of the abuse that I went through in the military. That was the
When you say abuse, what do you mean?
physical abuse in the military. Yeah, so although what I described in my work area a little while ago, that was in my work area. But then there was a relationship that was very, very, very violent, very violent. And so, and it wasn't just me alone. A lot of females go through that in the military. Some active duty, the wives are the ones who are active duty and they're civilians. But in my case, it was 2 active duty Marines. And a lot of teasing, it was like on the defense of the male side.
So that's a psychological abuse before we
yes.
even talk about physical abuse, especially when it takes so much out of you to serve in the military and so much courage and everything else, and then you're kind of subject to other things that make it even more difficult.
So you're going dealing with these 2 things, dealing with this type of abuse and then serving at the same time, because everything is okay.
We're going to allow the Sergeant to bring us up to date, but back then there was less known about it. It was, I'm sure, you had to keep it more of a secret, or if you did complain, you wouldn't have, not to say that we have all the avenues of corrective support that we should have, but it was probably even more difficult than it might be for a woman now. I'm making that guess.
I do believe that. I think they're getting more help in that area compared to I did, during my time.
So what happened to you afterwards? And then we're going to bring Sergeant Roland to talk to us about what we need and what we're doing and not doing.
I came home with a daughter, 3 years old at the time, and wasn't accustomed to being single parent, homelessness. I was homeless.
You didn't have skills.
Right. I didn't have the marketable skills. My work was infantry weapons, so that didn't translate too well when I came back as a civilian. And I thought about some work areas that I might be able to switch it over to. Like I said, maybe I'll work in the gun shop. Maybe I'll.
But there was
join
no
the
support or
police force.
guidance or somebody to say. And did it ever occur to you to say, well, you know what, I'll go to the VA and I'll talk to them, and I'm certainly as deserving as anybody?
Didn't even think about it.
Never occurred to you?
I didn't think about going, but then I just rephrased myself. I didn't think about going because, as far as I was concerned, that was the person who physically and emotionally abused
you
me.
made that connection that this was part of
Yes.
the same organization.
Yes.
So, very briefly, I'm going to ask you to summarize 25 years, but how did you work through that and get to where you are now?
Oh, it wasn't easy. I hit bottom. And there was an organization called United Bronx Parents. Between that organization and my church, it was a church that I attend now, Gethsemane Baptist Church.
We talked about the psychological abuse. That restored faith for you, at least gave you a sense of wholeness so that you could even address some of the issues. I'm making an educated guess.
It took a few years to get there, though.
I'm not denying
Yes,
it.
it took a few years. Cause
And
of course
and what do you do now that keeps you going? Or
my faith in God.
there you go.
Okay. Jesus Christ is my Savior. And that's what did it. Advocacy, helping those who are homeless, those who fell into the traps of addiction, substance abuse, alcohol abuse, domestic violence, all that. Everything that I experienced was just being turned around to be able to help empower individuals who are in that same light.
Sergeant Roland, so what do women now tell you? This is certainly it's a wonderful story because it's turned out well, but what are women saying now, women who served, whether it be in Iraq or Afghanistan, what are they saying now?
Well, now they're not being recognized.
Still?
They're doing more now. I went in 1981 and just got out in 2012. They are physically now doing the same jobs or tasking or military occupational
that's
specialists.
progress.
Yes, but you'll get an award, an overseas ribbon, or some type of hazardous award. You know what I'm saying? Hazardous pay, or I forgot what they call the award. But the women are not being recognized.
You say
as
you,
being
meaning me as a male.
a male, yes,
Right.
will get a combat badge or
But
something.
women don't get that.
And some women don't.
That's
No,
For even doing the same work.
check, exactly.
It seems insane. And let's just address some of the issues that Lance Corporal Taft talked about. You know, homelessness is a very big thing.
Very.
Not wanting to turn to the VA is a very big thing because there may be some services out there. How do we address this?
Publicizing them, which is what I do through the internet. I do physically go out and do outreach, make sure that I can reach as many people as I can. Letting people know, I'm saying, like yourself, politicians,
using Bronx Talk, or
Bronx Talk, or Bronx 12, or any and every
Whatever it is.
media possible to sort of like expand the information out, because that's what it is. Knowledge is power.
Women are hesitant to identify themselves as veterans, as far as I understand.
Right, because
one would think you would be proud. Certainly, if I saw a man or a woman who served, I would be, admire them and give them my thanks.
Yeah, but it's a mindset that's already instilled in us when we're in the military, that we're not up to par with our male counterparts. So when we leave, even though we have, like I have 31 years of service, when I came out, I was like sort of like leery, am I a veteran or not? I don't know, because I was there, but I didn't do as much as this guy did. And so we put ourselves in a comparison mentally of what type of did we meet the standards? A male,
This is a culture, and we talk, just to use an example, we talk about the blue wall of silence with the police department. How do we change this culture? This is an inbred culture that's got to be inbred much deeper than most issues that we're trying to address.
I believe that if we get to the recruits, before the recruits,
Male and female, I'm
yes,
guessing.
both, and sort of like let them know that, you know what I'm saying, I think if someone goes in with a high self-esteem of themselves, that they know what their worths are and what type of actions and what type of job they're performing.
Is there a movement, and I'm just guessing here, to adjust the training? So this would have to be part of military training.
Not beforehand, but there is after.
They
have
after, meaning coming out of it.
When you get out, they have the yellow ribbon where they notify you about anything and everything that you're entitled to. And in those orientations, they meet people like myself, or other organizations like American Legions, Veterans of Foreign War are always there.
Do young men in the military, young enlistees, do they have a better understanding and more accepting? Because I'd like to think in 20 or 30 years we've learned something. Because in 20 or 30 years, since they've been growing up, they're not prejudiced against the women. So when they go to the military and it's explained to them, then they're like, well, yeah, sure, that's
and
okay.
That's what's happening now. You have a
That's-
better
it is
a better
happening.
crop of
I'm happy to
recruits
hear that.
now, because they're more educated than the ones when I went in.
Mm-hmm.
You have college-orientated mindset people that are going in, because most of the kids that go in now, they want to do it because of education. They want to hire
They want to take advantage of the GI Bill
exactly.
afterwards.
So
And I have to interject. You'll recall at the Veterans Breakfast, I made a very specific point to say that this is, if you do the service, you should have the opportunity to take advantage of the GI Bill.
right, and that's what's happening now.
And so women will do that, much like men would, because
Right.
they want to take advantage of that.
And because of that, I want to say that little higher educational level that they're coming in with gives them a better outlook
Sure,
on
better
things,
understanding.
where they can shoo off. Yeah,
Sure,
I know who I am,
Right,
and
right,
I
a
know what I
little-
want
a
to do
little
in
more
life.
grounded.
Exactly.
Lance Corporal Taft, what do you tell women who are either veterans or about to serve? I mean, what do you tell them as far as advice or anything like that if they come to you for support?
Pretty much what we just heard, but know what you're going in for. Go in with a guaranteed contract as opposed to an open contract is always helpful. That way you select, you know what your MOS, your military occupational skill is going to be, not just have one handed to you. So, just
Take
look
as
at
much
it.
control of that situation
Right.
as you
Look
can.
at it just like how you would, it's a career choice, and go in with your mind made up of what you want to do.
Given
So that
what
helps.
you went through, and nobody's minimizing the difficulties or anything like that, would you discourage women who say, I want to serve?
Oh no,
No, you would not.
Not at all.
I'm
Matter of
happy
fact,
to
I
hear
had
that as
even
well.
encouraged my daughter to go in if she said I was crazy, but but yeah, that was the choice, But I put it up there as one of the options. But the key thing was like, don't go in blindsided like I did. The last thing I expected was that violence, within the ranks. I definitely did not expect
Well, we'd
that.
like to think maybe the education that we've all gotten in 30 or 40 years would have changed some of that, and we think we've heard that that's the case. Sergeant, let's talk a little bit about legislation, and we read all about it. We know about the culture. They talked about the culture in the Navy, et cetera, et cetera. Taking the cases, the legal cases, out of the hands of the military, that's a vital thing, so that if something does happen, there is recourse, and it's not people policing their own, right?
Yeah, I pray for that every day, because if it stays within the walls, it will stay within the walls. And there have been too many deaths behind sexual abuse.
Both through the abuse and then, of course, with things that the women
And
did
mentally,
afterwards.
and they try to brush it under a rug. Even someone's death shouldn't be brushed under a rug. So I believe that if they take it out of the hands of the military and give it to an independent court outside, you know what I'm saying, not military connected at all,
Right.
and let them
How
arbitrate.
close are we? I know Claire McCaskill in Missouri has been fighting for this.
And Gillibrand too.
And Gillibrand here in New York,
That's
of
right.
course. How close are we, and what are the issues now? Because it just seems so logical. I'm sorry, I can't help it. It's just logical.
Military has always been a close-knit community,
Oh, yes.
and you have to be very big, well connected in order to
move
break
the-
that chain.
Right.
It's a boy's world. So
world
Well,
within the world.
well, let me ask you both this question now. Aren't there? I mean, you mentioned Senator McCaskill and Senator Gillibrand, both women. Aren't there guys who would stand up and say, you know what, I support this legislation, I'm behind it? You know what I mean? We're all in this together. How could you not recognize that?
True, but
There are some.
whose name can you come up to mind right now?
I could start listing names. I mean, let's go look at New York. Senator Schumer is not standing behind it.
You might hear one or two phrases
Interesting.
here and there, but it's not anything where they're harping it and they're not.
To take the lead.
They're not, how you say, pounding it into the
Well,
page.
which is the only way to get something
Exactly,
like this done.
and you don't really hear too much of the males, politicians, whoever.
I'm going to ask you each. I'll start with you, Lance Corporal. What are the things you'd like to see changed? I realize there's a cultural shift we're looking for, and we've had some. Maybe 20, 30 years is a heck of a long time. What would you like to see specifically, whether it be legislation or whether it be something else that would support women in the military, maybe even recognition, for example?
Yeah, definitely. I'd like to see that physical abuse, the domestic violence being addressed and not brushed under the
Much
the
like it
carpet.
has the potential to be addressed in civilian life.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And there's definitely a fact that even though they're aware of it, they cover up. They definitely cover up for each other. So I would like to see that exposed. And I guess that's
Good,
pretty much
good.
that's.
Well,
that-
what
that
about
makes
for you? I mean, I'm sure you advocate every day. There's a
Yeah.
laundry list, I'm sure. But give me the top one or two things you want to see. And then I have a really good closing question.
They have, you're saying, with reference to all the physical, mental, there are programs already in place for that stuff. My thing is just getting recognition. You have females who are physically doing the same, what they call the military occupational specialties, the MOSs, that the male guys, or that the guys are doing, and they're not going up through the ranks, so to speak,
and
the way
getting
as
promoted
fast
and getting
as
credit.
exactly.
And if they would, it would be self-empowering. They would be
Or
better
it would be-
fit, better, you know, and it would be a nationwide thing to recognize.
or be
women.
viewed as that the woman is because a woman goes up in the ranks, she's doing something to get.
Oh goodness. Now the good question. Well, really, what's the benefit? What's the value? Is there something you take out of your service that you say, you know what, this was a good thing that I've had for the rest of my life, or was it all?
Definitely the fight.
The fight?
The
Explain,
fight.
explain what you mean by
Yes, because I don't have to defend myself or fight with my fists, but there's definitely a fight that goes on.
There's a-
So I
there's
just
a
do it
spirit.
intellectually. That's right, and it made me stronger. You know, it definitely made me stronger. There's a scripture that says, "Satan meant for evil, but God meant it for my good." And so that's what I use to fight this good fight of faith in the community, no
There you
matter
go.
who it is.
So that's
Yes.
giving you the strength. And what about from your perspective? You've served for 31 years. I mean, you were listing for me all the places all over the world and all the circumstances you served in. Explain to me what was good. Like, why was this worth it?
The
for you?
benefits of it, I could say many.
Give me a
I would
couple.
say I got to meet a lot of good people that I still stay connected with, and I always say there's always people come into your life for a reason. What you learn today is an application for tomorrow. What I learned all throughout my whole 31 years is how I'm being able to assist all the female veterans and male veterans, because I assist both. I don't discriminate. And the knowledge that I gained with that 31 years is what's allowing me to assist people.
For me, you know, and I've been the MC of the Bronx Veterans Breakfast for a couple of years now, and the spirit and camaraderie, and I've been, you know, in football locker rooms and baseball locker rooms. I have never seen anything like what I have experienced in a very, you know, outside, superficial way with watching members of the military of all the branches, even though they talk about competition between them. There is a brotherhood and a sisterhood
God bless.
that is undeniable. Thank you so much. Thank you for your service, and I know that you join me in on this Memorial Day of remembering those who have fought and have served, the men and the women, no doubt about it. They all deserve our admiration and our support and our everlasting love, no doubt about it. Lance Corporal Carrie Taft, thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Sergeant Sandra Roland, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we both appreciate both of you, especially on this Memorial Day.
Thank you.
Okay, folks, if you have further questions or comments on anything you heard on tonight's show or anything going on in the Bronx, then you email them to us at BronxTalk@BronxNet.org, or you post them on our Facebook page, and we'll read them on the air during a future edition of our program. Also, please become a fan of us, Bronx Talk, on Facebook. You can see the archives, all our old shows, BronxNet.org, and you check out the Bronx Talk link on the bottom right navigation bar, and that's where you'll find it. Scheduled for the upcoming weeks, next week, an amazing video produced by young people that takes you to the heart of the healthcare issues in the central Bronx. Then on June 9th, in advance of Father's Day, a show about Bronx fatherhood. Just as important as motherhood, we all know that, because we can't have good mothers if we don't have good fathers. And then make a note, June 16th will be a big night to debate for the 13th Congressional District. Congressman Rangel, Senator Espaillat, Yolanda Garcia, and Michael Walron have been invited to participate. We do not have confirmations yet, but we hope and expect that all will accept that invitation, though at the moment only Michael Walron has accepted so far. We'll see. Stay tuned. Thanks to producer Jane Filoro, director Shirley Arrieta. We'll see you next week.
Cool.